guys, Sam here back with you on Thursday, July 19th, and today is traditional assets. So we've polled the members, right, as I like to remind you where these come from. Members did the polling today, we voted, and New Zealand dollar yen is second here. Now this is a very good lesson, so I'm glad this was voted upon, although I could show you the same thing. As I will often tell people, the underlying asset does not matter. What I'm going to show you is here, whether we're looking at, as I have in front of you, a 3-day chart or a 3-minute chart. Asset doesn't matter. Time frame doesn't matter. It's all the same. They all trade the same way. You do not have to believe me, but well, let's see. So let's say you're a skeptic and you're like, okay. Well, all right, so I'm looking, what do we got, a 3-day chart? Oh, come on, man. What do I care about a 3-day chart? I want the now. I want the action. I'm jonesing for a trade. Well, if that's where you are, and I'm not saying that you are, but if you are, as you watch this and you're like, oh, come on, man, don't give me the 3-day. Well, let's just take a look at the 3-day here, right? So here I'm going all the way back to the 2009 low here. Now, just looking at this, do you want to guess at what we're going to find here? Well, let's just break it down here. So first, do we see an Elliot count? Is there possible we've got an Elliot count here? Well, let's just take a look here. So just first blush here. Well, it looks like there's some sort of 1 here, some sort of, this is my deepest retracement, likely the 2. Looks like that's a good candidate for a 3. I got a little ABC. Looks like that we might go to a diagonal, and then I can get a 5 up here. All right, so that looks pretty good. So if that's a completed 5, well, then that would mean that from this low here and on my 3-day, I've got a potential 1, 2 going in. Maybe there's a 3, 4, 5 coming. Let's get that up into, well, we'll get to a different color, and we'll go up to a larger degree here, as this is on a 3-day chart, we're looking at the long-term trend. Okay, well, all right, so there's just a basic, right? So again, it wouldn't matter to me if this was a 3-minute chart. Same thing, same approach, same methodology, same relationships, every time, same thing, same way, every time. All right, let's just do a little measuring. All right, well, let's say here now, this is my wave 1 low. I'm going to go up to my wave 1 high. Well, what do I get here? Well, I'm looking for the 2 between the 50 and the 618. Well, that's pretty much right smack dab in the middle of it. We can see what first reaction, first algo target, reaction, second algo target, reaction, almost making the 3rd. All right, so that's pretty reasonable. So 1, 2 looks like maybe a 3. Well, let's just see what else we can find there. So let me take this one off. So looks like my 1, 2 looks like some sort of a, looks like something like I've got an ABC here, maybe a little expanded, or we've got a flat. Well, let's just work on our 2, 3. So let's take the length of my 3rd and looking for something in my 4th. Now, where are we looking for the 4th? We're looking for the 4th at the 38.2. Well, really between the 23 and the 38. That's the prime zone in a strong market. What do? Well, we get the 38.2 to the tick. Oh, that's convenient. And where's our target? Right, so, I mean, that should be somewhat striking to you. That you could be a buyer here on a 3-day chart at the 38 and see it go right to target, damn near to the tick. It gets through by a couple of ticks, and then we get the reaction. So what are we demonstrating here? Well, we've got an Elliot count. We know algos are at play in here. There's no question about that. Well, then we think, okay, well, wait a minute. Well, if that's a completed 5 wave, well, then I'm looking for the 2. Well, where am I looking for the 2? I'm looking for the 2 somewhere between the 50 and the 786. That's our high probability zone. So we'll take it up here and say, okay, if that's completed, where are we looking for the 2? Right at the 50%. That is a couple, that looks like it's about 3 ticks shy of it. So, you know, a couple of things, just obvious things we can wick off here. So we got to pay attention to the wave 1. All right, so close enough here that in FX I would allow for that. All right, it wouldn't matter to us here because in a 2 we're not concerned about the overlap. So, but what I do have here is potentially just prior support playing as resistance. So I get a little zone here. So or another way to look at it, you could do it this way and say, okay, well, I see that one. I see that one. So I got a little pocket here. And then in addition to that, I've got the 50%, which is where I'm looking for minimum requirement for my 2. So I've got this nice little zone of here's support, then it's resistance, 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 resistance gets through, support. Right? Like it's literally right out of a Trading 101 book. Like I couldn't stick draw this any more perfect. Yet here we are on a 3-day chart of the New Zealand dollar yen. Right, so do you think an algo kicked in there? I promise you it did. Okay, so there we go, right? So Elliot hats on. There's my 2. Well, you know, we certainly could be going back down. The 2 is not necessarily in. We could be down here, could be down here. But we have certainly a strong candidate. Now, as we come off of this, if that's my 2, I'm trying to get some sort of a 1 wave started. And it looks like, so you can see here again, note, we're on a 3-day chart. Right? So look at this little shelf here of prior resistance. So the market structure here. So I've got resistance, 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 resistance. Can't get through it. So clearly this level is important to the market. So if we look over at volume profile, right? So no surprise here. If we just look at this area here, this is where we have market acceptance. Here's my point of control right in the middle of it. So we see where the market accepts price and where we get to some of these lower volume nodes where we have potential reaction. So what comes down here? We go low volume node right at the 50 because it just comes right down and pings. So we don't get market acceptance here. So this is a good example where a low volume node is another trigger as a potential reaction point. Nothing more. Nothing more. Doesn't mean that we're off and we're going to new all-time highs. We've just got a contender here. We've got a very technical pivot. High probability that's algo participation there. No. 0 probability it's not algo participation there. Let me put it to you that way. All right, well, so why are we running into this here? So let's just check it. So here from the swing high to the swing low, what are we running into? Well, you think it's coincidence that from my swing high to my swing low, we've come up to this resistance level here that's a few ticks, well, on a 3-day here, that's a little more than a few ticks. But here in terms of percentage, we're a very small percentage away from the 618. Then what else is here? Do we have anything? Well, here's if I can get that hot. Well, I got this little prior support here kicking in. So I've got this nice big shelf here. So I've got a lot of technical indicators suggesting to me that I've got some pretty stiff resistance. Well, let's look at the Elliot count. All right, so let me pull some of this off. We've got a fairly well-established contender here for a 2, but we're running into this resistance here. Here's our 618. So let's put our Elliot hats on. Now, remind you, I'm on the 3-day chart, right? This is just one shy of the weekly, but I prefer it to the weekly. So let's get that down. Let's go, here we'll go in yellow, and let's get to something we can work with here. All right, so we've got a very clean 5-wave. I wonder if that's technical. I wonder if it's technical here on the 3-day chart. Well, here's right to the 50, and so it taps the Vegas wave. Now, so let's combine those. So do you see confluence here? All right, so what do we get here? All right, so we've got an algo target, just a very small percentage away from the 50. We've got this structural shelf of prior resistance offering support. This is what we dream about here. This is massive confluence right there on a 3-day chart. So we look at that and say, well, okay, so let's say the target was the 618. We come all the way down here, right? And we're going back the other side. So note here from the 2, it's right to the golden zone. All right, so it could be that they're using that pivot. Could be. But I would defer, well, you know, I would keep an eye on that, right? So that's interesting to me as it relates down here. Now take note of what we see down here. So into the golden zone off of the 2 pivot. So where's my target? Right here. So would that be coincidental here that we go to 618? Then I've got my target just in front of the 618. Well, can you wait that long? Right? That could be sometime next year before we get down there. So, you know, if you're jonesing for daily action, this is not the market to be trading. But do you think some money was made here? Right? I mean, just this move right here. That's from call it 69.60 to 83.50. That. So it looks small, right? Because we're looking at a 3-day chart, so this seems like, oh, that's not that much. That'll make your year right there. You catch that move. All right, then when we look here, what does that look like? Maybe that was technical. Let's just go here. All right, so again, you don't have to be down on the 15-minute, you know, fighting through all of that noise. what do we get right here? All right, well, here's the 50. Here's the 50 here. Can't get through. So we got a fib fight. So where are we now? Sitting in the golden zone. Right, you see, so let's put the Elliot count on that. So maybe this is, well, I've got some sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 double top into a diagonal, which would suggest that maybe that's my 2. So this looks like could be 3, 4, 5 going up higher. So I've got a contender here. So I've got a very solid technical pivot here. I've gone up to my 1. Now I've gone right into the golden zone here. I know a 2 could be anywhere from the 50. You see what hit 50? Tap it, tap it, tap it, break it down to the golden zone. We know can go all the way to the 786. But it looks like maybe golden zone supports. We're not sure. We don't know because we've got a fib fight going on here on the 3-day chart. Because we've got, of course, right, as I just showed you, we've got, if I use it this way, all right, so golden zone to golden zone. So what do we got? We just got a big sideways market. Just sitting, just a classic fib fight. One algo fighting against another algo, right? This algo buys it. This algo sells it. This algo buys it. And they just duke it out. Who's going to win? Right? We don't know. But we can certainly look and see what's going on, where they are. This algo, the reason we track this algo is because the only one we can see. It's the one that we can identify. We know what it did last. We know what it's going to do next. It's the only one that I know of where we can see its footprints in the market, not just in FX, in every market. Every single market on every single time frame. If you don't pay attention to this, I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to help you with this. This is until something changes in the markets, or new algorithms are written, or this algorithm has been overly identified, which I think is unlikely because it's been going on since the people were charting. You can't ignore it. You just can't, right? So again, whether we're on the 3-minute or the 3-day, the 3-week or the 3-month, it doesn't matter. It's always the same thing, right? So the reason I wanted to show this to you here is because I wanted you to see that all the way out here on a 3-day chart, it's just as technical. Same thing happening, same way every time. All right, let's get figured out on where we are. So we have a little bit of a conundrum here, because we have a 5-wave down that would imply an A wave, right? So if we're calling this our 1 because we have a completed 5-wave structure here, and we've got a completed 5-wave down, well, that, oh boy, hard to argue with this as an A wave. Now this, we could probably. Oh, you could probably get an ABC out of that if we need to, right? So we're not going to know whether we need to or not until we see how this resolves. So let me pull this off. So we could probably relabel this if need be, right? This is where it's a little bit of a conundrum. We can go ABC into a B into a C. We can probably get that to play. Right, but it sure does look like we've got a good 5-wave structure as well. So I feel a little bit like it's a force fit there. So if I just stay with what I'm seeing, and let me clear some of this. Well, that's pretty well established. We've got that there. ABC, this still into a B. Well, it's either the 4 or the 5. Note here, as we look at this as a 5-wave, we get an impulsive wave. So I think that's a secondary count, but I think what's more likely actually is the way I had it originally. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Meaning that very real possibility that our 2 is going to come in lower. So that would mean that what we have here is an A wave that's gone in. So let's draw it this way. So A, potentially, now this is A, B, C into a B wave here. And now we're going down for a C. All right, let's revisit that. So if that's my count, if it's A, now let's get that up a degree. Come here. If that's AB, we'll go to micro. All right. So if that's AB, well, we're expecting a reaction here. And I just drew this for you. So you get what we're after here. So right into the 618. Here's my target down here. All right. So what else could we do? Well, we could certainly look for some market geometry. Well, that's modified. Let's go to original. See how that looks. Okay. So I get a potential roadmap down here. I don't know when I'm getting there, but I've also got to look for some confluence relative to my wave 2 target. So right here, we've got here. So here, this all kind of lining up there's a candidate down here. We don't know. We don't know when it's going to get there, but I've got potentially now. So the benefit of working with median lines is that it's a leading indicator. It's leading if we're going to go to the median line, right? If we're gonna get down here, are we gonna get down there here at this time? That's what's the date? Where you got to remember we're looking at a 3-day chart. So that date is November of this year. Right. It looks like, oh man, that's we only got 4 or 5 days to get there. Nope, 3-day chart. That puts us towards the end of the year. Could be. Certainly it's teed up that way. So we'd have a nice A, perfectly technical B. We've got this clean 5 waves down into our A wave, right to the 50. Very common to see the A wave pivot at the 50. We've got kind of an ugly AB here, but we go right to where we'd expect it. We're looking for the B between the 50 and the 618. That's the prime zone for it. Where do we find it? Right smack dab in the middle of it. Then we're looking for this to come down in 5. All right, let's get off the, let's see if we can break that down just a little more as relates to how to trade this. All right, we don't know. All right, so if we're going to stay with that idea, so this would all be lining up right here. All right, so let's get this off. We'll take this off here. So we've got those big targets, and we've got this hot box down here that we're identifying as next likely candidate if this is going to continue to play as ABC. Additionally, we could take the length of the A wave projected from what we're showing as the B, looking for a common target. Common targets are 618, which would mean we'd be double bottoming here. Here's the 618 just on the other side of the 50. Here's the 100, which would mean a deeper break. So now we're into the deeper zone for a wave 2, where we'd be looking from 618 to 786. Very deep for a 2, but it happens all the time. All right, so a couple of different contenders here to keep at least somewhere on your chart, so you know that if we're going to blow through any of these levels, we know potential targets as we go down. All right, so there we go. So now coming down here, looks like I may have some sort of a diagonal starting. So if I just working off the 3-day, looks like I might have a 1, 2, maybe a 3, 4, 5 going in. That would get me down here. Could be. Now let's go to the 4 hour. All right, open this thing up. All right, here's our potential, our candidate here. There's our 1, potentially our 2 up here. Well, it looks like, boy, I don't love that, but it looks like I've got some sort of A, B, and a very big C to get me up here. Maybe, it could be a very, It could be a very shallow, could be this way as well. Looks like I've got 5 here, so I've got a little, a diagonal to finish this C. I don't love it. Kind of looks like something we saw in Bitcoin earlier. I don't love it, but I can get a good 5 here down for my B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like, so if we went to an hourly, looks like that's a fairly decent diagonal to finish us there. If I can get that up here, so you can see the diagonal. So this would be our A wave pivoting here. Oh, it looks like, well, let's just count it. Can we get a diagonal here? So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to give us that C wave right here to give us this 2 wave. Let's get that up a degree or 2. And we can go to, there we go. Okay, so A, B, not the prettiest B, but I got a little A, B, C down for my B, then into this diagonal here. That looks like it's very deep for that. Well, God damn. It's not, even when I don't know that it's there. So look here. So in this diagonal, we're always looking for a diagonal. We're looking for the relationship between the start of the 1 wave to the pivot of the 3rd. Well, we get here, we go right to golden zone, and then it's unbelievable. And then we go right to target to the tick. All right, algos. All right, so that now adds confluence and confidence that this count is good here as a 2, meaning this pivot was important. Well, then we go boom, boom, boom. Looks like that's some sort of ABC bringing me down. So let's go back out. Let's go to a 3 hour, see if we can dig in to hit this and come up with a count that works. So coming down here, so sure looks like from here, I'd go 1, 2. Oh, looks like that's 3. That's a big 4, and we're coming down for a 5. Let's get that down to a more reasonable degree. We'll go to green on that. Okay, so I've got 1, 2. Note here, we stay. If I've got, let's get this right. So we do not overlap the 1 here. So if I take, excuse me, my 2, well, we go right to the 50 now. Denied here. Interesting. Denied. Denied. We don't get it. They ultimately they get it here. Now, did they stay with it? Probably not. All right. So this now makes me think that they went all the way back up. All right. So there, you know, there's the conundrum. So we get this completed 5 wave. I'm just coming back here. We get the completed 5. Here's the push to the 50, unrealized target. Screams back up, gets a few ticks through the 65. So what's the answer there? Is this A, B? Kind of looks that way. Looks like I've got an A, B, C in here. Well, we know a B wave or a 2 wave can go as far as the 786 commonly, can go farther, but that's common targets. So that looks fairly good. So it looks to me like I've got, so, you know, again, given the reaction, so look what happens here, right? So given that reaction and where we go to the tick, from that deduction for me is that they stayed with it. I can't tell you why. For whatever reason, they're giving it a little extra skin or a little extra push here, allowing for a little stop run. Again, you see this, as I just said in the last video on the euro, you see it all the time. And if you see a little break here, anticipate it to do the same if on the next 65. So that little break, then given the move all the way down here, well, my guess is that from here, do we have it again? Now, it looks like we went here, and then looks like, now, perfect example. Okay, do you see this little, so do you see this little pop up here where they break it just slightly? Come here. They break it just ever so slightly. And then they do the same thing right here. Break it ever so slightly, but then where do we go? All right, so do you see what I've got here? I've got twice in a row. That's unbelievable. I've got 2 targets. All right, so right here to the tick. So I've got this one here to the tick. Then I've got this one. It's unbelievable. Here, let's get this up. All right, so the first one makes it to the tick, right? So that's this one here. Second one, unrealized. So what's going on here? Well, often what I'll find, and this is just a good example, these little pivots. If you see it here, expect it just barely on the next one. All right, let's go. Probably the same algorithm. They're giving it more cushion here on the other side of the 65. I can't tell you why. I can only show you what's here. So if we go down here, so now I'm going swing high to swing low. What have we done here? Here's likely a front run on the 50. Right, so we've got multiple swings. This looks like probably something as well. We've got multiple swings. Right, so geez, how many is that? I'm losing track. I've pulled so many. Right, to the tick. Then we get to the tick. Well, this one. So we have one yet unrealized. Right, that's the last one. So this one here doesn't make it. Are we retesting? Well, let's check. Well, there's the 50 and the point of control. So this is something that you'll see often. If it doesn't, this is a good example. If you don't catch it, so often it'll be an alternate of pivots. So if this, or if you got stopped out here, let's say you did. Let's say you had to stop on the other side of the 65. That trade devil guy told me to put the stop on the other side of the 65. What does he know? So if you're on the other side of that, well, if you're here, it's a bummer, right? So it's very, very close. It happens in FX. You got to give them just a little more cushion because the stop running that you see around pivots, you see it all the time. So here we're unrealized. All right, so then we have this one, of course, as I just showed you. So this potentially now, right? So here with the break, I'd go back one, and now we're right to the 50. Right, just something to pay attention to. I see it all the time. You could additionally, there could be a channel here that would be worth putting on this. It looks like we've got a channel getting established here. Could be a pitchfork, could be median lines. Anything that we can add to the confluence idea. Do we have confluence here? Well, that's pretty good here. We tap it. If we're not going to be right on it, we're going to get pretty close to it. Hover around it. We go. So here we've got the 1.5 at the 50, which means that I'd be eyeballing for this. So if we're going to stay median lines, I'd be eyeballing for this. All right, so here's my 50. Here's from my 50. Here's my target. All right, and look what we've done since tapping that 50. So interesting also point of control right there. Very common. Come back, tap the point of control, then rip. We saw saw in the S&P multiple times today at golden zones. It's very common. You'll see the market tap that point of control and then move, either blow through it or go back in the direction that it was going. So we have a series of lower highs and lower lows here. So the anticipation would be continuation of the trend. I would sure be paying attention to that median line. Now, this is all just algo pulls. We haven't really even looked at, well, where are we in the Elliot count? If that was the 2, well, then that's got to be the 1, 2 of this. And this has got to be 1, 2, 1, 2, right? We're losing options here. There's only so many things that it can be. So if that's 1, that means that we've got to have this here pulling from this as my 2. That's my 1. That's my 2. And some sort of 3 is going in down here. Let's get this down here. I got to scrunch this up a little bit. Let's go back out to go to a 4 hour, see if we can put all of this together. All right, so scrunching back up. All right, remember we started at a 3-day. All right, so there's that. So if that's 1, 2, 1, let's get this in a higher degree. Let's get back to blue. We'll go up. That'll work. Okay, so we've got 1 ABC into a 2. Looks like that's 1, 2 yet again. Hard. It's kind of ugly, so let's open it up. Boy, that's an ugly 1, 2. So we could have, well, we could have a very bizarre expanded flat here. So this could be 1. That's a contender, actually. So that what I'm seeing here is potentially now we have a very odd ABC. So you do see these, that we've got that before we go back down. So we'd have, so this would be, I'm running long here. I didn't mean to go this long, guys. Okay, so we potentially now have this very fat B wave here. So a real expansion so that we get 1 ABC into a 2. Let's see how that plays. So this becomes the 1. This becomes the A to the 50, B, well, B happens to hit the algo target, and then they get the reaction, pushes us back up as a potential C here, meaning that coming down here now on this next degree, let's see, I got to go to, I'll go to white here, and we got to go up a degree. Let's go to minuet. I know this is a bit complex, guys, but this is just the work you got to do. So here's the 1, 2 potentially now. So I'd be playing this on the smaller degree as this as 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5 are going in. I got to take that. Then we can go to yellow. Let's go down to, let's go to sub. Is that going to do it for me? Okay, so this would be 1, 2. So let's think about that. So if I'm measuring as 1, 2, I'm looking for my 3. Here's my hot box down here for my 1618, 175. That's my target here, but I've got multiple targets. That's the smaller degree. So all of this gets pushed down, insinuating that the market here is really pretty well teed up to go much lower. So if I've got 1, unusual, I know it's unusual, but I think that's what we've got here. All right, I could be wrong. I certainly could be wrong. If it's A, B, then this is 1, 2. Then this is yet again 1, 2. So now down to the smaller degree, we'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get that. We'll go back to blue, and we'll go to sub-micro. All right, so I know that's complicated. I did not, I don't do these in advance, and I just kind of deal with what I see here. So sometimes it gets more complex on the fly, but that looks like what we've got here. So this being 1, 2, this 1, 2 likely to be technical. So here for my, if that's my 1 of my 3rd, the 2 can't, we know, but anywhere from the 50 to the 786, so that's certainly valid for a 2. Now, how are we going to know? We got to see, do we get an impulsive 3, 4, 5? Do we get an impulse in the 3rd bringing us down? All right, so we got a lot of targets much lower here. So putting that all back together, let's see if we can do it. All right, so let's go from the 4 hour, let's go to the 1 day. All right, you remember where we started back on the 3 day. All right, so all of this potentially now setting up as an A, B, and all of this complexity just trying to get us down here for this 2 at the golden zone. All right, so all of that to try and get us down here. All right, long way to go. Could take a long time to get there, and of course, finally we'd get this back on for that sense of timing as to when we're going to get there. Could be here. Could be here, we don't know. But if we're going to be in a 2, those are all areas to be. Now, of course, I wouldn't buy here on a daily chart and put a stop here. I wouldn't do that. But if you were going to, if you were taking it here and got stopped out, maybe you're giving it a little extra room on the 65 through all the examples I just showed you. Maybe giving it a little extra room, but you'd want to be conservative with your size here because we're trying to pick the turn. Safer play always, as I've shown you many times, is to wait to get a pivot and then take the first retracement and try and get that. So this is your trade with this as your stop, right? Because we don't know where ultimately this bottoms, right? Wait for it to bottom. If you get a motive, then take the first retrace, right? And you know you're out here. All right, that's 30 minutes, guys. I did not mean for this to go that long, but there's a lot of meat in there, a lot to learn, and a lot to see in terms of going through, starting with a 3-day chart. But you know, if you're going to try and trade something like this, you don't just pull up the 15-minute and go, "Oh, okay, man, I see what's going on." You got to get some perspective of where you are in the larger degrees, so that you know if you're trading with trend or against the trend, and how are you defining trend? Is the trend up or down on the 3-day? How about the daily? How about the 1 hour? How about the 15-minute? If you really want to get down to it, where are we in the larger degrees? Right, so you can say, I'm only trading with the trend. Okay, well then right now trend is down. We're correcting that whole giant first wave. So what do we have here? A series of lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Right, so trend is down, at least here on the daily. We're correcting that 5-wave structure here, trying to get resolution here as we correct to reestablish the 5-wave sequence that's moving higher. We're just looking for the 2. But look at all the trading that's in there. Get this right on that pivot. All right, guys, that was longer than I meant to go, but there you go. Like I had not had that chart done before. I hadn't looked at it. That's the work that you got to do. So, you know, I can do it faster than that, but that's a half an hour talking you through it in real time as I would analyze that. And there's, you know, kind of just doing the work as you go through it to try and identify where you are and what's likely to happen next. All right, guys, I got to wrap there. That's 32 minutes. So just a reminder, we've got this little competition, or this contest, I should say, contest going on. You can look for that entry link underneath. That'll get you 2 months of membership at our university. For its first prize, second prize is 1 month, third prize is 2 weeks, $700 value. So would encourage you to enter there. You can also find out more about it over on our Twitter page. We really do try and make an effort to engage with our followers there. Our handle there is Trade Devils with an S. Our website is tradedevils.com. All right. Okay, guys, I'll wrap there. See you later.